Hello everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. We're going to be talking all things UFC 244 this week. A lot more enthusiasm from me this week as opposed to last week. This card is really solid, one of the best cards of the year. The betting lines are very close on all fights. I think the biggest favourite on this card currently sits at -250. So if you like your close odds, you like your betting underdogs, this is a really strong card in that respect. So as always, we're going to go through each fight one by one. We'll start from the first fight on the card. As we always do, we always recap how we got on the weekend just gone with regards to betting results for members. 6 units profit for members. There was only one pre-bet over the weekend. As I said last week, I didn't like the Singapore card for betting. So I didn't actually place one pre-bet. Not that I tip to members. I always have, not always, but sometimes I have some personal plays, and I always put them up on Twitter what I'm betting, but not tipping to members. I was on Evloev decision, and I also bet Michael Johnson. I'm not even going to go into that flake. And Harry cocked that up because I still don't know how he managed to do that. But yeah, they were my two plays there. And then on Bellator, I was on Lima. Actually, quite a big bet on Lima I had, but I didn't tip it just purely because I just wasn't 100% sure if his takedown defense was going to hold up or not. And I thought the line was kind of got to like -180, and I was just thinking I just couldn't tip it at that price. If it was maybe -150, I probably would have tipped it. But just I thought the line was just a little bit too wide. Even though his takedown defense had looked much better, you could see it in the Koreshkov rematches and the adjustments he made. I assumed that was probably going to be the case against Rory, especially when you consider Rory's just not the fighter he was. But line was just a bit wide for me to tip it. But yeah, I had quite a sizable bet on that, and also had it's only a small bet, but I also bet the Nick Newell under instead of taking the Patrick Mix under. I don't know why I did that. It was a bad choice, but never mind. I profited on my kind of personal plays, but there was only one pre-bet for members. That was in the boxing. That was Derrick Chisora to win by knockout, -187 or 1.53 for people in the UK. That came in easily. I think it was a full frame KO, and the rest of the profit was from live betting. We had live betting for UFC Singapore, and we had live betting for the boxing for that show in the UK. That had a fantastic main event. Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis. So yeah, I mean, didn't really lose any bets on live betting. I think we lost one or two. I know we bet Cyril Gain decision. So unlucky to lose that, a heel hook in the last 10 seconds at heavyweight. I don't think I've ever seen a heel hook at heavyweight before. But we cashed some good plays, like Evloev decision after round one was +250. Absolute crazy line. You always seem to find that when they have these Asian cards and they're on kind of early morning UK time, midday, that it's a different trader that's doing the live betting. You always seem to get gifts. Last Asian card we hit like a 5-1 or +500. I don't know what goes on with the traders when they have these odd timed UFC events. So yeah, so Evloev decision came in. We also hit Muslim Salikov decision at almost +200. And the boxing, we hit Lee Selby decision, hit it after round 2, knew it was going to go to a decision, so I wanted to get in before the decision line got a lot worse. We got that at almost even money. And we also managed to get Josh Taylor at +200 to win the fight. I think it was like middle rounds we managed to hit that. So there's a few other bets that we hit as well. But everything's tracked, guys. If you want to see kind of the results per bet, there's links to the free trackers I use below this video. If you go to prommmabetting.com, there's links to all free trackers there. We are 100% transparent. You would never see, as I said before, you're never going to see anyone calling me out for transparency. If we win, we win. We lose, we lose. Everything's documented. I post bet slips and stakes on Twitter, so you can see that we are betting what we are tipping as well. I'm not one of these paper traders that's just putting bets out there, not actually betting them myself, or I'm betting, ridiculously small amounts. I'm putting my balls on the line. £1,000 units we use. So if I'm tipping something for 4 units, I've got 4 grand on it. If I've got tipping something for 2 units, I've got 2 grand on it. No one's more pissed off than me if I lose a bet, because I lose a lot of money on them. So I'm careful with our bets. You've got to take risk especially in MMA. And this week we're taking some risks because all these fights, or most of the fights, or in fact all of the fights, you can make a case for either guy. But I think there's some value on the lines, so we've kind of gone for the value this week. Could end badly for us. It could end very well for us. We could kind of have a 50-50 week. It's just one of them where you just go for where you see the value on the lines and just hope that things fall your way and it's not one of them really bad nights that you have. But there's nothing that I'm overly confident in. But as I say, you've got to play the value. And I think there's a fair bit of value on this card, so I'm really looking forward to breaking it down. For the service, guys, it's £195 for 12 months for live betting and pre-bets. I mean, it's been really busy the last few weeks in terms of the amount of events. We had 2 events for live betting on Saturday. I didn't offer live betting for the 2 Bellator events, but that was kind of there as well if we wanted to take it. This Saturday coming, there's a boxing card in the UK, and then the UFC follows straight after. So we've got 2 events this weekend. Guys, people that have been with us since the start of the year that use £100 units are up £11,900. So almost £12,000 profit. All we're asking for is £195. That's your investment to us, and then the rest of the money you make is going to be profit. So, you know, remarkable return on investment. You're not going to get that anywhere else, even from your Bitcoins. I don't think you're going to get it from Bitcoin at the moment, even though it's had a little surge lately. The UK banks certainly aren't paying anything like that return on your money. So guys, it's betting. You know, I can't give you 100% guarantees on anything, but look at our tracked history. Everything is tracked. As I said, transparency is key for us. We've been making money year on year. We've still got 2 months left. I'm really hoping we can get towards that £15,000 mark for £100 per unit bettors. That'd be real nice. But I think kind of already where we're at, it's been a great return for people that have invested in us and trusted. If you just want live betting tips, we can offer that for £150 for 12 months. But most people go for the pre and for the live bets. £195 for 12 months, guys. A lot of work goes into it our end. It's cheap as chips. I don't think you're going to find anyone cheaper out there in the market, and you're definitely not going to find anyone more transparent. Put out a podcast every week where we break down every UFC card. Once I go full time, I'm going to do podcasts probably for most shows, like the Bellator shows and other bits and pieces. Like Bet Online had Cage Warriors lines this weekend just gone. First time they've ever had them. I stopped capping Cage Warriors. I've had a great record on Cage Warriors. I've not lost on it for maybe the last couple of years, but they just stopped putting lines out for it kind of last few shows, so I just haven't bothered capping it. So I'm going to see if BetOnline release the lines for the next Cage Warriors show. If they do, I'm going to have to go back to capping it. They only released the top 2 fights, so might only have a small window in terms of the amount of fights we can look at, but it was a positive sign anyway. So yeah, any questions, just shoot me a comment on the YouTube page, drop us an email, info@prommmabetting.com, or you can shoot us a question on Twitter @prommmabetting. To pay for the service, guys, you can do it via PayPal. The website's not been updated with the current offer, so it's through PayPal, info@prommmabetting.com. But if you want to kind of get confirmation of that in writing so you don't make any errors, just drop us a communication and correspondence as per one of the methods I just mentioned, and we can get that over to you, just confirming the address. But we're going to look at the card now. We're going to break down the card from, as I said earlier, from bottom to top. See if we can find some value. Goes the distance, and inside the distance lines actually dropped last night. I've not looked at them, so again we'll have a look through them as we go and see if we can find some value on them along the way. So definitely a more enthusiastic podcast than last week. So let's get started. First fight on the card is Julio Arce taking on Hakeem Dawodu. So Arce is a southpaw. He's at a 3-inch reach disadvantage here against Dawodu, who fights out of the orthodox stance. Arce is a couple years older. Significant strikes. Dawodu's up at just under 6. Arce is just under 5. Absorb a similar amount. They're both sitting around 2.5. Can't really see takedowns being a factor here. I think we're going to get a kickboxing match for 3 rounds or however long this lasts. This is actually one of the few fights I've still not got around to taping. I'm going to look at probably taping this today, so just keep an eye on the part where I make the predictions below the video, because it might change once I've done tape. But I think my memory is fairly accurate on both of these. Hakeem hasn't lived up to the kind of hype. I mean, he's very athletic. He's got really good takedown defence. He's got good get-ups, albeit he does tend to give up his back, or he did pre-UFC anyway. We've not really seen him on the mat in the UFC so far. But it just hasn't really blown me away. I mean, he totally tooled Austin Arnett, but kind of everyone did in the UFC. There was a period in the second round where he seems to struggle with right hands. He made his debut against Danny Henry. Danny Henry hurt him like straight off the bat and choked him out. And then there was just this spell in round 2 where he just kept eating these right hands from Austin Arnett. And I think he's a little bit low-key chinny as well, Dawaldu. As I said, hurt by Danny Henry. He was hurt by Steven Siler. I mean, in the fight before his UFC debut. He got a split decision win over Karl Bochniak. I don't know why that was a split decision. He won that fight comfortably, but you know, you'd expect him to, especially when you got a Karl Bochniak's just not a great fighter. I'd have got a bit overhyped because of his performance against Zabit, and that was more than anything the last minute of round 3. He's coming off a win over the Japanese fighter Yoshinori Hori. Had a bit of a slow start in that one, struggled round 1 with the pressure, but Hori started to tire and he took over and got the stoppage late in round 3. So yeah, he's not blown me away. I'm a little bit worried about how he eats them right hands. He's facing a southpaw here, so the right hand threat's not there, but the left hand threat is from Arce. Arce's coming off a knockout win over Julian Erosa. Head kick, knockout, brutal knockout. The first 2 rounds were pretty competitive in that fight. He was struggling a little bit with the pressure that Erosa was putting on him. He was coming off a loss there against Shaman Morales, where a real bad start to that fight, but he kind of recovered well and came on strong pretty late. It was a pretty good turnaround when you consider how badly hurt he was early on in that fight. He made his debut against Daniel Timur, who isn't great. He beat Dan Ige before that, just outstruck Ige for 3 rounds basically. Pretty impressive performance there, because Ige's a decent fighter. He's been rapidly improving. So this is a hard fight to call. The lines currently sit at Dawaldu's dropped a bit actually. I thought he was minus 150. He's minus 135 at the moment. Arce's plus 115. Honestly, I'd probably cap it at a pick'em, I would say. So there's maybe a little bit of value on Arce, but I can see this being a close fight, a split decision type fight. I don't think either guy's going to run away with it. Fight goes to a decision, sits at minus 175. I probably like that. I mean, Arce's never been knocked out. Dawaldu's not. I don't think he's a big, potent finisher. I think he can finish you if he's just completely outclasses you on the feet, because he is a very good striker. He is very technical, but I don't think that's going to be the case here with Arce. I think he will hold his own. So I do see it going to a decision. I mean, based on the current lines, that's probably my favourite bet here. I wouldn't go crazy on it, but minus 175, fight to go to a decision. In terms of a winner, it's a hard one to call. I'll pick Arce just because he's the dog. He's plus 115. I think there's maybe some slight, ever so slight value, when I think maybe it should be a pick'em. But yeah, there's ever so slight value there. I'm picking Arce, but I don't really see any value either way at the moment on the current lines on that one. But fight goes to a decision, minus 175. I don't think's bad. I think that's a decent bet. I don't know if that line will hold. It's only dimes that have got it at the moment. We'll see what happens throughout the week, but at the moment I think it's got value, and I think that will get bet up. I think that probably ends up closing more like minus 250, maybe even minus 275. I would guesstimate. But I'll pick Arce just based on the line, but it's definitely not a confident pick. I definitely see it being a very close fight, and I think the line's probably going to tighten as the week goes on, as it has, because Dawaldu was out at minus 165 at one point, and fight week now is normally when more money comes in and the lines change more, so I expect that to tighten up. Got the men's welterweight division next. We've got Lyman Good taking on Chance Recounter. I'm looking forward to this fight actually. I think it's going to be a good fight. It's going to be interesting to see what approach Chance takes here. He's basically had success in the UFC using his grappling. Now, he made his debut on, it was short notice against Belal Muhammad. He got soundly beaten in that fight. Mainly striking, he was completely beaten up on the feet in that fight. Didn't look good at all. But he's coming off back-to-back wins. He got Carl Stewart down quickly and subbed him. And Ismail Nurdiev withstood a early storm in round 1 and then managed to implement his wrestling and ground game in that fight. I think he's going to be looking for similar success on the grappling side here. I don't think he wins this fight on the feet. From what I've seen from him on the feet, the way Belal Muhammad managed to deal with him on the feet, and don't get me wrong, Belal's a good fighter, but Belal just completely shut him down on the feet. Chance has never been stopped. He's got 3 defeats, all via decision. So I expect him to look for the grappling here. Now, Lyman Good's takedown defence is still a little bit of an unknown. We've not really seen it. I mean, it's something he struggled with earlier in his career, and he lost on the Ultimate Fighter due to getting out wrestled. But you know, we're going back like 6 years to that Ultimate Fighter fight. Andrei Koreshkov was kind of 7 years ago. So the takedown defence is still a bit of an unknown. We saw it tested a little bit against Dos Santos. Dos Santos did get a couple of takedowns, but they were off caught kicks, and he did manage to get back to his feet quickly. In terms of attempted takedowns out in space or against the fence, he managed to stuff Dos Santos. Ben Saunders' fight, we didn't see it, and then Damian Maia did manage to get him down. I mean, he was scrambling okay with Damian Maia. He did manage to get back to his feet, but he gave his back getting back to his feet, and Damian Maia, you just can't do that against Damian Maia. Chance has shown he can take your back if you give it up as you're standing up. He done that in his fight against Kyle Stewart. He took his back as he stood up. I think he took it from standing and got him down to the mat. So he has got that ability, and he totally shut down Ismail Nurdiev on the mat as well. But Nurdiev kind of just gassed out from the wrestling and grappling. What Lyman Good needs to do here is he can't throw kicks. Chance is good at throwing kicks and hitting takedowns off kicks. We saw Gillespie have success on that front against Lyman Good. So surely he comes in and he's not throwing, especially the body kicks. They were the ones that were getting caught. I think he just needs to box here. I think he's the better boxer on the feet, but just needs to use his fight IQ. We don't really know what his ground game's like. Lyman Goods, it's hard to gauge when you face someone like Damian Maia. Historically, he's struggled when he's been put on his back, but Gillespie only got him down properly once, and he did get back up pretty quickly. And Gillespie's a solid grappler. He's a BJJ black belt. So, you know, it's more of a gut intuition, but I just think Chance is probably going to struggle for takedowns unless he can get them off caught kicks. And on the feet, have to give the advantage to Lyman Good. That Gillespie decision really surprises me. I mean, it's very hard to score fights when you're capping, but I really thought he took the first 2 rounds against Gillespie. Definitely lost round 3, but I gave him round 1 and 2. He lost a split decision there, but yeah, I thought he done enough to win that fight. So I mean, we haven't really seen too much of Chance on the feet apart from the Belal fight, but kind of based on that performance, have to give Lyman Good the advantage on the feet. And I just think unless Lyman Good shows poor fight IQ by throwing the body kicks and getting kicks caught, I think Chance is going to struggle for takedowns here. So I'm going to go with Lyman Good to win a decision. I looked at this fight before the lines came out, but I wanted Lyman Good at probably as a dog would have been great, or at evens. He's currently at -125. So money is coming in on Chance because Lyman was out. It's saying he's -128, but I'm sure I saw him up at like -140 at one point. So we'll see what happens during fight week. Money might come in on Chance if Lyman Good starts getting closer to evens. It's pretty tempting. I do see this fight going to a decision. It's currently sitting at -180. I think that's quite a solid price as well, minus 180, but it's only available at 5 dimes. We have to see if it holds, but again, I quite like that price. But I would be interested in Lyman Good if he gets closer to evens, but I'm going to go with Lyman Good to win a decision here. Next we've got Jennifer Maia taking on Katlyn Chookagian. This is another fight, guys, that I haven't looked into yet, and I'm not going to be looking into it purely based on the current betting line. Chookagian is out at minus 155. There's no way I'm betting Katlyn Chookagian as a minus 155 favourite. If she was sitting at minus 120 or so, I probably would have looked into it. But I just don't trust her. She didn't burn me, but I bet her against Barella, and it was just an awful performance. She was just punching air. I mean, she did look better against Joanne Calderwood. Looked like she was a bit more aggressive, wasn't punching air so much. She was actually landing strikes, but based on kind of historical performances, I need to see more than one performance like she put out against Joanne Calderwood to have faith in her again here, because the Barella fight was such a sweat. Just a real awful air punching performance. The Alexis Davis fight, to be fair, she did land some. There was less air punching in that fight. I don't really remember the Jessica Wright fight, to be completely honest. But Joanne Calderwood, she was definitely landing more shots. So maybe she has changed up her style and realised she needs to be a bit more aggressive, needs to be willing to take one to give one. And the Calderwood performance was solid. It was a good performance, but I just need to see her fight like that again here. If she does, then I will have a bit more faith in her style having changed up slightly and her being more aggressive and willing to land shots. But Jennifer Maia, she's someone that will, she's happy to take one to give one. We saw that against Alexis Davis. She got a comfortable win over Roxanne Modafferi, but this is a step up here for her against Chookagian, and Chookagian is difficult to look good against. Fight goes to a decision. I imagine the price is going to be minus 400, like it's minus 385, so that's a complete pass. But for me, I can't get behind Chookagian at minus 155. If she drops down to like minus 120, I'll probably go back and look at Chookagian's last couple of fights just to see how I feel, but even then it might be a pass for me. So I see it going to a decision. I'll pick Chookagian, but that's just me picking her. I don't think there's value on her current line. Would not be shocked if she went back to her air punching ways and it ends up being a close, horrible, sweaty split decision. But I'm really hoping she carries on the Joanne Calderwood performance here and kind of sitting down more on her punches, actually looking to land as opposed to just throw volume out there. So this is a chance for Chookagian to kind of come out of that shadow of disappointment in my eyes and put another stamp on a performance here. So I'll go with Chookagian decision, but as I say, no value for me on the current betting line. So that's the Fight Pass prelims out of the way. Let's move to the Fox card now. So we've got heavyweight fight next. We've got Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Andrei Arlovski. Andrei Arlovski, as we all know, I'm sure, he's been around a long time now. He's changed his style in the last couple of years. He's far more careful with regards to being hit and engaging himself in a brawl. He's suffered a lot of knockout losses. I think he's had 10 knockout losses throughout his career. He's actually gone 8 fights without being stopped, which, fair play to him, being able to turn his career around or performances around and his style around to stop that happening and still being fairly effective. It has come at a price because he isn't knocking anyone out either. The last time he knocked someone out, we're going all the way back to the Travis Brown fight back in May 2015, where it was just an all-out brawl basically. But he's managed to kind of implement this more point style type fighting as opposed to his kind of old style. He definitely doesn't get hit as much as he used to, and for longevity he had to change something up. We've seen Overeem do the same. He doesn't fight anything like he used to, tries to protect his chin a lot more now, and it's been fairly productive for Overeem as well. So it's quite interesting that these heavyweights can kind of turn their careers around at a late stage. I mean, Arlovski's 40 now. Arlovski's coming off an impressive win over Ben Rothwell. I thought he should have got the nod over Augusto Sakai as well. I remember live betting him in that fight. He lost a split decision. I think he was unlucky to lose that. Prior to that, though, he was coming off 3 straight losses. I know the Walt Harris fight was overturned, but he did lose to Walt Harris. Going the distance with Walt. I mean, Walt has tremendous power, but he can be quite passive at times. But still, going 3 rounds with him. The Shamil fight. I mean, Shamil won the fight, but it was pretty competitive. And then some people argue that he should have got the nod over Tai Tuivasa. So this is kind of the problem he's had in changing his style. It has made fights fairly close. He lost the Sakai fight, as I said, when he probably should have won. And then some people think he won the Tuivasa fight as well. So there is that concern with regards to his style as well. Rozenstruik, he's got a kickboxing background. I remember trying to look into him before. From what I could see, it wasn't kind of at the highest type of level, but I know his record is pretty good in kickboxing. And I mean, his striking's looked good in the UFC. He got that win over Junior Albini, and he's coming off that quick win over Alan Crowder. So Arlovski might have the most dangerous striker in front of him here since, well, there is Walt Harris, but besides Walt Harris, probably the most dangerous striker he's fought potentially since the Francis Ngannou fight, which is when he was last knocked out. The easiest path to victory for Arlovski is probably trying to implement his grappling. We did see Rozenstruik struggle with that in his debut against Albini, but you've got to think he's been working on it hard. Rozenstruik, it wouldn't shock me to see some big improvements with his takedown defence here. Arlovski can hit takedowns. It's not really something he tends to look for, but he did get Shamil down a couple of times with trips in the clinch. One was towards the end of, I can't remember what round it was, but it was towards the end of the first or second round, so he didn't really get time to work. And the other time Shamil was able to get up pretty quick, but it's not something he normally goes to. But I mean, I was going to say he's not really faced anyone that's kind of easy to take down, but I mean, Tai Tuivasa, we saw in his last fight, is not the best with a takedown defence, and there he, from memory, I think he just happily struck for 3 rounds. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of game plan he comes in with. I can't trust Arlovski to come out here and grapple his way to a win, though. I mean, I don't know when or if he's ever done that. I mean, I remember he submitted, I think it was Tim Sylvia with a Achilles lock a long time ago, but I mean, besides that, I just don't really remember him engaging on the floor much. So I can't trust him to come out here and grapple Rozenstruik. A lot of money's coming in on Arlovski because Rozenstruik was a sizable favourite. I mean, it's saying minus 170 on best fight odds, but that's not accurate. I saw him out at over minus 200. Rozenstruik's currently minus 150. Arlovski plus 130. How does this fight play out on the feet, which I probably think it's going to? I think Rozenstruik's the more dangerous guy. I think he's more likely to get the finish. But, you know, Arlovski's changed up his style well. It's a hard fight to be confident in. I'm going to go with the younger, fresher guy, but just remember, Arlovski's had a lot more fights than Rozenstruik in MMA. He's at American top team now. If he can come out, if he can hit a couple of trips on Rozenstruik might be a turtle off his back still. He did not look good off his back against Albini, so Arlovski might be able to maintain top position for the duration of a round if he can get a takedown. So it's going to be interesting to see his approach to this fight. I think he does need to, be smart and look for those takedowns. But it's something he's just not done throughout his career, so it's hard to bet him when you think that he will need takedowns perhaps to get this win. So current lines, I mean, I'm not really, I don't really lean either way at the current lines, to be honest with you. Rozenstruik by knockout, I'd be interested in seeing what that prop pays, but I'd need it to be plus money because, as I said, he's not been knocked out for 8 fights. He has changed his style up, Arlovski. Rozenstruik might be a little bit hesitant. He might be worried about being taken down. This is easily the best MMA fighter he's ever faced. So we'll see, but I just think on the feet, if it does stay standing on the feet for the 3 rounds and Rozenstruik kind of, isn't overly aggressive to give up a takedown, but he fights, fairly smart, I think he can win this fight and perhaps even stop Arlovski. But at current lines, I think I'd need closer to evens to be tempted on Rozenstruik, and Arlovski, I think he needs to implement some grappling here to win this fight. I'm not saying he's out of his depth on the feet. The gap on the feet and the floor, the gap is probably bigger on the floor. So Arlovski can probably hold his own more on the feet than Rozenstruik can on the floor. But just when it's someone whose whole career has just revolved around stand-up, it's just hard for me to then trust him to come in here and grapple his way to a win. So I'm going to go with Rozenstruik, but big disclaimer, I'm not confident. Arlovski could grapple him. He didn't look good off his back, albeit I do expect improvements from Rozenstruik in that respect. But Arlovski is harder to hit now as well, so let's see how Rozenstruik approaches it. I mean, it's hard to take anything from his last win, and Junior Albini's not very good either, so I would not be surprised to see if Arlovski pulled this off. But for me, it's a live bet fight. The fight goes to a decision. He is +125. Not really interested in that line either. This is a kind of live bet fight for me, I think, especially at the current lines. As I said, Rozenstruik closer to evens, perhaps. But even then, I don't think I'd be tempted, to be honest. Albini, the grappling display wasn't confidence inducing, and in the last fight, it's over so quick, it's hard to take anything from it. So I'll go with Rozenstruik, but that is definitely not a confident pick, guys. Perhaps there is value on Arlovski at +130, but as I said, never seeing grappling from him really. I can't trust him to implement that here. Next we go to Brad Tavares, returning after he's had about 16 months out. I think he broke his arm against Adesanya. He's taking on Edmen Shahbazyan. Middleweight contest, this one. Shahbazyan is currently an even money line. Now, Shahbazyan was a big favourite here. He opened up at -245. So a lot of money has come in on Brad Tavares here. Now, Edmen comes from Glendale Fight Club, trained by the notorious Edmen. He's 10-0, he's only 21 years of age, so extremely young. There's lots of room for improvement there for a young lad. And to be fair, he's looked fairly impressive in his UFC run. Quick win on the Contender Series. Based off of his record, all round 1 wins going into the Darren Stewart fight. Everyone was expecting a firefight, but he came out and wrestled Darren Stewart. Managed to shut Darren Stewart down pretty much for the first 2 rounds. Tired badly though from all the wrestling, and he was in big trouble in round 3. Nearly got stopped, but he managed to grind it out. Got a late takedown on Stewart and managed to come away with a split decision win. And then he's coming off 2 really quick wins over Charles Bird, hit him with elbows off of a takedown attempt, basically knocked him out, and a quick takedown and submission of Jack Marshman. So, all of his fights have been over in round 1 besides the Darren Stewart fight. He showed that he's not just a striker against Darren Stewart, he showed he can wrestle, and Darren Stewart's anti-wrestling has improved remarkably since when he first got into the UFC. And he couldn't really keep Darren down. He struggled to get him down. He got him down a few times, but Darren would get back to his feet pretty quick. It was a lot of holding him against the fence. But at least it showed he's not just a striker. It's really hard for me to get a full read on his striking because, you look at the Contender Series, the Charles Bird and Jack Marshman fights, you can't really take anything away from them fights in terms of his striking. All you can go off really is the Darren Stewart fight, where he didn't really want to get involved with Darren Stewart at all, which is smart, but he did look a little bit of a defensive liability. Whenever Darren Stewart was pushing forward, he was kind of landing big shots. Didn't look comfortable or wanting to engage with Stewart at all. He hit some really good reactive takedowns, but he wasn't setting them up with his own strikes. It was more Stewart was getting a little bit reckless, kind of chasing after him. So I've just not got a full read on his stand-up here. And he's only been out of round 1 once. Now, Brad Tavares is a veteran of the sport. As I said, he's coming back from that long layoff, but he was in the career best form prior to the Adesanya fight. He was coming off the 4 straight wins. He looked pretty good in all of them. He's very well rounded, Brad Tavares. He's got very good wrestling defence. He's tough to take down. If you do get him down, he scrambles up very well. I mean, I remember betting Aaron Simpson against Brad Tavares. This is back when I used to kind of just bet for fun, like meagre amounts, but I don't know why I always remember this bet. This was back in 2011. I remember Simpson won, and he basically just held Brad against the fence for the best part of 3 rounds. I couldn't really get Brad down, so that always stuck in my mind because Simpson at the time had quite a bit of hype, very credentialed wrestler, and he managed to shut him down. He couldn't get off the fence, but he managed to stop the takedown, so he's always had good takedown defence. And then you just go through his fights, and he's just shown himself to be really, really solid defensively with the wrestling. So if Edmen comes out here and tries to wrestle Brad, I mean, it's going to be very interesting what's going to happen. I don't see why Brad can't potentially hit his own takedowns on Edmund. Edmund needs to be careful in the scrambles. If he kind of drops down looking for a takedown, drops to a knee, Tavares will try and hit the switch, he'll try and get his back. We saw that against Elias Theodorou. So this is definitely the toughest test of his MMA career in terms of having a well-rounded fighter. On the feet, Brad Tavares is a very competent striker. He trains with Ray Sifo. I mean, it's hard to get a read on the stand-up because I just don't really know how good Edmen is. He's obviously got some power, but defensively he looks a little bit lapse. So it's a really intriguing fight. The line was definitely way off. I kind of agree with where it is now at more like a pick'em. Maybe I'd set Brad as a slight favourite, but I think at current lines it's a pass. But I think if you got any plus money down on Brad Tavares on a plus 120 or better, I think it's a good bet. If you manage to get him at like plus 200, then it's an amazing bet. It's going to be a very close fight. You know, if Edmen comes out and looks like that minus 245 favourite that he opened up at, fair play to the kid. He is 21, so he could be improving all the time. It's very young, and it's impressive what he's done for a 21-year-old. But Brad Tavares is one well-rounded individual. We saw him bust up Taulaitis' calf with calf kicks. I expect he's going to look for them here against Edmen. As I said, he's competent on the feet. He's been knocked out a couple of times. Rob Whittaker though caught him early, and he lost to Tim Boach, and I remember that fight vividly because I bet Brad Tavares in that fight, and he was absolutely coasting, in complete control. Tim Boach extremely strong in the clinch, and Brad was just shutting him down, no problem. But then he got caught in the second round. So yeah, it was just an unbelievable comeback. Always remember that because it's one of the worst losses I've had, just in terms of someone totally coasting and then just getting stopped out of nowhere. So yeah, real interesting fight. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to tell us a lot more about Edmund. Let's just have a look at the fight going to a decision, because I think if the fight goes to a decision, minus 200, no, I'm not really too keen on that. Although if you think Tavares wins, it probably goes to a decision. But at current lines, guys, I don't think there's really any value either side. I think if anyone drops into plus number territory, there's probably a little bit of value depending on how big that plus number is. But anyone who got on Tavares early, that was definitely where the value is in my opinion. But pass at the minute. But I'm going to pick Brad Tavares here to win a decision. Next, we've got Makwan Amirkhani taking on Shane Burgos. A lot of money's coming on Shane. This opened up at Shane. Well, it says Shane was minus 185, but he wasn't. He was lower than that. I think he was like at about minus 160 at one point. He's sitting out at minus 250 now. I don't think there's any value on the current line. I think when he was at the minus, I think anything minus 200 or better, I think there was some value on Shane. Makwan, his strength is his wrestling. He's from Finland. And that's where his strength lies basically. He's not a chain wrestler type. It's more he'll shoot a double, or he's got a decent like body lock takedown, but he's not the type that's gonna kind of chain wrestle you effectively. He's not been that active, although that has picked up. Like, this is his second fight this year, which is the first time he's fought more than once in the same year since 2015. One fight in 2016, one in 2017, one in 2018. He's 30 years of age now. He wanted to work on his stand-up. I think he's got to the point now where he's like, you've just got to go for it, man. You're 30 years of age. you're fighting in the featherweight division. The clock is ticking, basically. You're a lighter fighter. Your window isn't big at that age. So I think he's just got to go for it. His stand-up's definitely improved. Fights out of a southpaw stance, but he's very low volume on the feet. He's got a good right hook counter. It's pretty good punch. He times it pretty well, but it's pretty much all he's got on the feet. We saw him dropped twice by Jason Knight in round 1, and Jason Knight's fight IQ was just absolutely appalling in that fight. And he's coming off a win over Chris Fishgold. He won round 1, mainly off of a takedown. He was losing round 2 for me, but then Chris stuffed a takedown attempt and dropped for a guillotine. I just don't agree with pulling guillotines in modern MMA. But yeah, Chris dropped for the guillotine. He escaped and ended up getting submitted with an anaconda choke. Before that, a very close fight with Arnold Allen. To be fair to Makwan, he probably would have got that win. But there was a stand-up with about 2 minutes left of round 3 that I didn't agree with, and Makwan may have maintained top position for the rest of that round, and it would have got him the win. So yeah, a little bit controversial for me that. But I mean, based on the stand-up, then I probably would edge it towards Allen. But he was probably quite fortunate he got that stand-up. Like he beat Tom Dukanwa years ago, back in 2013. Dukanwa's retired now. So I mean, Makwan's a dangerous guy. He's got good wrestling. He's got a good sub game. But it's his stand-up that it's just never going to excel. He trains at SPG in Ireland, and he's going to be out of his depth here on the feet with Shane Burgos. He's going to need takedowns. Now Shane is hittable, but I just don't see Makwan causing any issues for Shane on the feet. Shane's got the reach advantage here. The big thing here is the takedowns. I mean, Shane hasn't been taken down in the UFC. I think it says on Fight Metric 1 takedown, and that was in the Traitor fight, but I don't regard it as a takedown. He had the body lock and forced Burgos to his knees, and Burgos just stood up straight away. I don't regard it as a takedown. We haven't seen him flat on his back, so that's the big question mark here. I mean, he stuffed a lot of takedown attempts, like against Pepe, Charles Rosa. I mean, these people have got deep in on his hips though. He's managed to stuff them, but they have got deep in on his hips. Now he does hold his hands low, Burgos, so he can secure them underhooks early, but you can get in on his hips, and Makwan is definitely the best wrestler he's faced. So it's going to be interesting to see if Makwan can secure a takedown, and if he can, what Shane is like off of his back. I mean, we saw him sub Kurt Holloway off of his back after he got dropped, but Makwan's a bit of a different level on the mat. I'd be very surprised if Shane subs him off his back. So this is the big question mark here, is if Makwan can get takedowns, how's Shane going to do off his back? I think on the feet it's Shane all day. On the floor, we don't really know. Can Shane get up? He does kind of give his back up when he's getting back to his feet, but Makwan's shown he's not really doesn't really kind of try and take you back. He's more likely to try and transition to like a guillotine choke, or try and lock up a DAS, something along them lines. So he's got to watch his neck, Shane, if he does end up on his back when he's trying to work back to his feet. But I think we might see Shane a little bit more hesitant here than normal. He can tend to literally start walking you down, so he's got to be careful with that against Makwan. He's got to keep his stance at all times. I don't want to see him running after Makwan. I've seen him do that in the past, but it's probably against people he's just not really got any respect for their takedowns. He does train out of the camp with Julio Arce and Lyman Good, etc. And historically, the camp's always shown Jimmy Rivera. They've always shown solid takedown defence. So I just think Makwan's takedowns might be a little bit too limited here, just in terms of their diversity. And I think Shane on the feet just wins his 100%. Whether he can put Makwan away or not, I don't know. But I'm definitely picking Shane here. But I don't think there's value on the current line. I think he's a little bit too high, just with regards to the question marks on his takedown defence, because Makwan is easily the best wrestler he's faced. So I'm picking Shane, but I think the value lies in minus 200 or better. Currently at minus 250. I think it's a pass fight. Fight goes to a decision, minus 175. Yeah, not really. I could see Burgos knocking him out, and we don't know what Burgos is like on the mat. He could get subbed. So potentially. So yeah, I'll go with Burgos there, but the line's a bit wide. Last fight, guys, on the Fox prelims. Best fight of the night for me so far. Corey Anderson, Johnny Walker. The big question here is Johnny Walker going to be another... Who's the Brazilian guy doing all the somersaults and all that palaver? I mean, don't get me wrong, Johnny Walker's proven himself more than that kid, but is he another hype job, or is he going to prove to be the real deal? For me, I'm still not sold. Yeah, he's looked very impressive. He's clearly extremely dangerous on the feet. There's no doubt about that. He's only 27 years of age. He's fighting at light heavyweight. Still plenty of room for development for him. Now, if we look at his fight on the Contender Series, now apparently it was short notice against Frankenstein, but you know, his takedown defense looked really poor. Well, not so much in that fight actually. I'm thinking of his fight against I can't say the guy's name, but he knocked him out in the second round. It was a fight back in March 2018. He was just getting taken down easily in that fight. They got stood up in round 2, and he managed to land that knee that he always lands standing up and knock the guy out. But he'd been completely dominated up until that point. Just the guy was hitting easy takedowns on him. Against Frankenstein, now Frankenstein didn't really hit any takedowns, but there was a couple of attempts at takedowns, and he got pretty deep on them. Now Corey Anderson is finishing them takedowns without question. What I also didn't like, because it's hard to take much from his last 3 fights because they're over so quick. There's very little you can see. But what I also didn't like in the Frankenstein fight was how he'd get backed into the fence. He didn't seem to have much cage awareness, and he showed that as well in that aforementioned fight I mentioned where he was losing until he got the knockout in the second round. I mean, it's a bigger cage he's going to be fighting in than the one on the Contender Series, or the one for that fight he had back in March 2018. So it's a bit harder to back someone into the fence when they're in the bigger cage, but just didn't like the cage awareness there in that particular fight. And I know it was short notice, but he gassed horribly in that fight as well. They was both exhausted going into round 3. Corey Anderson doesn't gas, but he's had 3 really impressive performances since, all destructive, real quick KO wins. That it's hard to take a lot from, except for he's obviously clearly very dangerous, particularly in round 1, and you've got to be very careful with his elbows and his knees. Corey Anderson, he's I mean, Johnny Walker's had a lot of fights, but he's just, historically, he's just not really been out of round 1. The Frankenstein fight went 3 rounds, but besides that, he's got a fight that he won in round 3 back in 2015. He's got a loss in round 2. He's got another loss in round 2 earlier on in his career. Seen him knocked out as well, actually. He got knocked out like twice in 18 seconds in one fight. But he's clearly improved and he's clearly dangerous, but I'm not fully on board the hype train yet. I need to see more out of him than 1 minute. The last time we saw him extended was against Frankenstein, and it was a year ago, and he didn't look great, to be fair. He didn't look that great. Corey Anderson's a seasoned veteran. He's been in the UFC pretty much all of his career. Started on the Ultimate Fighter. He'd only had a few fights, and he's been in the UFC since. Now, the concern here for Corey Anderson is he has been knocked out 3 times. Jan Valente took him out in round 3 in a fight that Corey was winning. He got dropped a couple of times by Shogun Hua. He survived, and I think Corey probably should have got the decision there, but he lost a split decision. He got knocked out by Jimmy Manuwa, and again against OSP, fight he was winning. He got caught in round 3 with a head kick. What I would like to add here is I did listen to Corey when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was basically saying that he used to be in a kind of like a constant state of cutting weight. He always held his weight at about, I think he said about 210 pounds. What he said he's done since, I think it was since the OSP fight, is he stopped doing that. He's let himself just walk around at his normal walk around weight, which is about, I think he said 230, 235, and he said it's helped his chin. Now, when you watch his last 3 fights, the Cummins fight isn't really applicable. Glover didn't land much, but whatever Glover landed, he ate fine. And then against Latifi landed some big shots in that fight. And Corey didn't flinch one bit. Now, I'm not saying he's now got a granite chin. If Johnny Walker lands a flying knee or even that stand-up knee, it's probably curtains for Corey. But there's definitely signs that his chin is better than it was based on what he's now doing with regards to his weight. Just watching that Latifi fight, he hit some big shots and he took them no problem. But as I say, if Johnny Walker lands that flying knee or stand-up knee or maybe even that elbow he landed on Roundtree, he's probably still going to sleep. So it's still a very dangerous fight for Corey, this. But if what Corey's got to do is he can't panic shoot. He can't come out panic shooting because he's got to be really careful with Johnny Walker's knees and so forth. But I think this fight could go one or two ways. I think Johnny Walker's going to get a quick knockout again, or I think Corey Anderson could absolutely make this look easy work. Based on the takedown defence we've seen from Johnny Walker, unless it has improved remarkably, I think he gets ragdolled in the clinch here. Or if Corey will mix his takedowns up. He'll kind of force you into the fence and he'll work very well on the fence for takedowns, or he can shoot blast doubles pretty effectively. And I don't think Johnny Walker's going to have much of an answer for him as long as Corey is setting them up correctly and not panic shooting. On the floor, I've seen Johnny Walker off his back. I think he'd be stuck there as well. Corey might even be able to get a finish on the mat here, and obviously I think he needs to try and work towards that if he does get him down in round one, because if it does go 3 rounds, there's 3 opportunities there for Johnny Walker to land a knockout shot because they're going to restart on the feet each round. So I think he'd be wise to try and look for that finish, or at least if he does get the takedown, Corey's got a great engine. He can work as hard as anyone at 205 pounds. Just make Johnny Walker work off of his back, just constant ground and pound, get him tensing up, get him working, trying to avoid shots, try and gas this guy out, because you don't want Johnny Walker fresh at the start of each round. You want him tired. So for me personally, at current line, he's dropped a little bit. Corey was up at my plus 145, opened at plus 155. I like Corey here at that price. You give me a pick'em line and it's a pass, but at current line I think there's a bit of value on Corey, but you could end up very easily with egg on your face here and Johnny comes out and gets another quick KO win. But this is the UFC, man. You're not just going to keep pulling out these quick wins. It's not going to happen. And I hold Corey Anderson in high regard. Now, some people are going to say he's chinny, and look, if Johnny lands flush, he's going to knock him out. But Johnny Walker's punches aren't great. Now, one thing I did note actually that I didn't like from Corey is, to be fair to Johnny, Corey's not, the most similar opponent Corey has faced to Johnny, and they're not even that similar, but just in terms of athleticism and so forth, it's probably OSP. Now, OSP, there was one stage, I can't remember when it was, I think it might have been towards the end of round 1, where he threw a barrage of shots at Corey, very similar to how Johnny Walker throws his punches, because Johnny it's hard to explain how he throws his punches, but he runs a combo at you, but big, long, straight punches, and I just didn't really like how Corey reacted to it. But they kind of all seem to get through, and it's just kind of how Johnny Walker throws the punches. But I'm optimistic that Corey's chin will hold up to the punches. It's the knees really that concern me the most. So, but Johnny Walker, what he does is he doesn't fight long. He'll throw punches, and as soon as the Thai plum is there, he'll take the Thai plum. Now, he's got dangerous knees from the Thai plum. He's knocked a lot of people out with them. But what he's also doing is he's closing the distance, and he's going to allow Corey to grab double unders. If he takes the plum against Corey, I think Corey instantly is going to grab him around the waist, pull him in, so there's no space to throw knees. he's going to trip him, or he's either going to put him against the fence and work for the takedowns. So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, Johnny Walker's dangerous for the elbows as well, because we saw him knock out Roundtree with the elbow from the tie plum. So Corey's got to work very quickly. As soon as that tie plum's grabbed, he's got to drive him into the fence to shut down any offence, get his face in Walker's chest immediately, drive, face in the chest, put him on the fence, just shut down him having any offence. So it's a winnable fight for Corey Anderson, but it's a very dangerous fight, and I'm really hoping this goes past round 1, because I just want to see, does Johnny Walker have much after round 1? Once he's a bit tired, has his takedown defence improved? How is he off of his back? I'm really hoping this is going to answer a lot of questions, because another quick round 1 win, and it's going to swell the hype bubble, but it's not going to answer any questions, because, as I say, you can't keep pulling out these quick round 1 wins in the UFC. It's not going to happen, and I've just got a bit of a question mark over Johnny Walker's kind of skills as a MMA fighter outside of the explosiveness and dangerousness he has. So I'm going to go with Corey here. I wouldn't be shocked if he could finish this on the mat, but I'll go with a decision. I think there is value on the current line, but as I say, I would not be shocked if he gets shut down very quickly. Right, we're into the main card now. First fight is Kevin Lee, Gregor Gillespie at lightweight. It's a really hard fight for me to call, guys, because Gregor's fought no one like Kevin Lee. He's looked very impressive, Gregor Gillespie. I think maybe he should be at 145. He's got away with it so far. But this fight is actually going to answer that question quite a bit, because Kevin Lee is a big 155er. He's coming back down from welterweight now to 155. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he deals with the size of Kevin Lee here. But Gregor's got a great engine, very solid wrestling, and we saw, RDA was able to take Kevin Lee down. So it's Kevin Lee's done this camp at TriStar as well. He's changed things up. So how's he going to look at TriStar? How's he going to look back down at lightweight? This is only a 3-round fight. It's not 5 rounds. But the cardio has been the issue for Kevin Lee. Along with his kind of striking, just never evolved to a great level. But he might be the better striker here against Gregor Gillespie, or he probably is. But can he keep the fight where he wants it? I'm really interested in this fight. It's a very good fight. I'm not confident in a play either way, to be completely honest with you. What his fight goes with distance, -165. I think if you like Gillespie here, it's the same as, it's worse than moneyline though. So you've got to take the moneyline on Gillespie if you like Gillespie, I guess. Kevin Lee winning the decision. I don't know. I could see Lee having a strong round 1, but it's going to be a high-paced fight. If he slows down, it's going to be danger in round 2 and 3. Look, I just can't get rid of the fight. I just think there's too many question marks, especially around Gregor, because he's just, this is a big step up in competition for him. He's looked very good. You've seen from him exactly what you want to see from a legitimate prospect. But he's also quite old, Gregor. He's 32. I didn't think he was that old. So he really needs to push now, Gregor, before his clock is ticking at 32 years of age. Kevin Lee's still only 27, but didn't look great against Hawaii Quinta. RDA, it was a competitive fight of RDA, but it just ran out of gas. Barboza fight was all one-way traffic, so his cardio was fine. He's going to be made to work here for sure by Gillespie. I don't know. I don't want to get behind Gregor at -160. I did make a small play on Kevin Lee when the lines first came out at +130. Hadn't done any tape at the time, and it's only a small play, so I'm just going to let it ride. But I kind of wish I passed now. It's a real tough one for me to call. I'm going to go with. I'm probably going to go with Gillespie, but I'd want a closer to evens line. In fact, no, I'm going to go with Kevin Lee. Sod it. I'm not confident on it. I've not got a great read on this, but it's a big step up for Gillespie. Let's see what he's got. If he comes out here with an impressive win, then I'll be very impressed with the guy. but it's a big step up here. First time he's got someone that can wrestle, someone that's going to be a lot bigger than him. But I do worry that Kevin Lee slows down. I think personally it's probably a really solid live bet fight, guys. I mean, Kevin Lee's dangerous round 1. If he can get Gillespie back, you know, we've never seen Gillespie have to defend anything like that. But it probably favours Gillespie if it gets out of round 1. But we'll see. I mean, Lee's done his camp at TriStar. Let's see what TriStar have done. See what the strategy is. Strategy might be to keep it standing. Kevin Lee's got great reach. He's never just really been able to utilise it. But he's got someone here who's probably the inferior striker. So I'll go with Lee, but not confident pick. My favourite men's heavyweight next. Blagoy, Ivanov, Derrick Lewis. Definitely no bet from me, guys. I think the line's pretty much spot on. You know, it's getting close to a pick'em fight. Look, Ivanov will probably be winning this fight until the moment he loses it. As we see with all Derrick Lewis fights, he just has this ability to come back out of nowhere and put you away. The worry I've got with... Look, I think Ivanov will probably... If this goes to the judges' scorecards, Ivanov might win the decision. But the problem I've got with Ivanov is he's not a big puncher. So I think Derrick Lewis is going to be hanging around here for 3 rounds, and that's just a dangerous proposition. We've seen Ivanov, I think he's had 3 UFC fights now. Let's get his record. Yeah, so we saw him against Junior Dos Santos. He lost over 5 rounds, and then he's coming off wins over Ben Rothwell and Tai Tuivasa. The Ben Rothwell fight was very close. I think I scored that for Ben Rothwell at the time. Derrick Lewis, we all know he's kind of flawed as a fighter, but the guy just pulls out. He's come from behind wins. We saw it against Travis Brown. We saw it against Shamil Abdurakhimov. Who else have we seen it against? Tybora. He had the very bizarre fight with the hesitant Francis Ngannou that he won. And then we saw him again against Volkov, just 11 seconds left, was going to lose a decision and pulls out the win. He's just a hard guy to get against. I can't trust Ivanov here. I'm going to go with Lewis. Ivanov, has he ever been stopped? He's never been KO'd. But Lewis can finish, man. He's got some frightening power. It's a very hard fight to be confident in either way. I wouldn't be betting this big, guys, whatever you do. Fight goes to a decision, it's only plus 125. I thought it might be a bigger plus number than that. But I'm going to go with Lewis. He's not even the underdog though, is he? It's basically a pick'em. I'm still going to pick Derrick Lewis, but Ivanov is the better MMA fighter as a whole, but I just don't think he's going to stop Lewis. I think you're just going to be sweating it for 3 rounds. Ivanov decision might be interesting if you don't mind a major sweat, but for me it's a pass fight. But you know, as I say, this is more of a betting podcast than a, you know, just who do I think is going to win. And Lewis is the one with this ever so slight plus number, so I'll pick Derrick Lewis here, but it's definitely not a confident pick. You can never be confident in Derrick Lewis. Next we've got Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson taking on Vicente Luque. Really good fight this one. He opened up at about minus 150, I think. He's down to minus 125 now. He's coming off a KO loss to Anthony Pettis in a fight he was in complete and utter control of, was totally dominating the fight, and then he got caught with a Superman punch right at the end of the second round that put him out cold. Prior to that, he lost the 5-round decision to Darren Till over in the UK. Controversial decision. Most people scored that for Wonder Boy. Before that, the masterclass against Jorge Masvidal, and then he had the back-to-back fights with Tyrone Woodley before that. The worry for Thompson backers here is Thompson is 37 in February. Now, his style is very speed, movement and reflex based. Now, as you age, they are the first things that go. So his style doesn't have great longevity. As good as he is at it, he's one of the best strikers we've seen in MMA. It's still a style that doesn't age well. Now the question mark here is, how much has he slowed down? I mean, the Jorge Masvidal fight, he looked fine. I mean, the Tyron Woodley fights were just difficult fights. He was hesitant in those fights because he was worried about the power of Woodley. And Woodley kind of, he skirts along the fence. So, Thompson's a counter striker. So it was just stylistically, it just wasn't a good mix, because Woodley's a counter striker as well. You put two counter strikers together, you often get a stereo match. You bring in Woodley's massive power that he has with that right hand, and it just makes matters worse. So, I mean, against Masvidal, he looked great, but that was 2 years ago. Masvidal did tag him a few times with the left hook, which is a very potent weapon for Vicente Luque, but on a whole, he was just completely outclassed. The Darren Till fight, again, it wasn't a great fight entertainment-wise, but most people felt Thompson done enough to earn that decision. And against Pettis, I mean, he was totally outclassing Pettis. It was just a masterclass, really, and then he got caught. So he has been dropped now Pettis knocked him out. Darren Till dropped him in round 5. Woodley dropped him. Is he getting caught more now? Because he's just, even though it's hard to see it with a naked eye, is he just slowing down that fraction that he can be caught now? And he's coming off his first knockout loss as well. I mean, the other knockdowns he managed to recover, but Pettis put him down, and that's not a great look with Anthony Pettis up at welterweight, knocking you out cold. But he is such a good striker, and one thing I did notice is Jorge Masvidal uses the high guard as defence, and that's a bad recipe against the Wonder Boy, and it's actually what Vicente Luque uses. So Masvidal would cover up with a high guard, Thompson would land 2 or 3 shots, he'd angle off and be gone. What Vicente Luque does is he used that high guard to try and block the shots that are coming, and then he will try and counter off of those shots that he's just received. He backs up in straight lines. Stylistically, I can definitely see him having problems with Wonder Boy's style here. He's going to try and time like the left hook counter, which Masvidal did land a couple of times, and Luque's got some big power. But Thompson is going to be out of there very quickly now. Is Thompson going to be a little bit more hesitant here? He's coming off a knockout loss. There's that potential as well. And Luque does have power. Wonder Boy's probably not going to get rid of Luque. He's probably going to be there for the 3 rounds. So Thompson's got to fight very smart and very intelligently. But when I watch tape on Luque, he's extremely tough. He's got good power, but I'm not blown away by him. I'm just not. He had that impressive knockout over Belal Muhammad in the first round, but he's just had he lost to Leon Edwards, and then since then, he's just had good opponents basically. But you look at his last 2 fights, well, not 2, but ignore the Derrick Krantz fight. If you look at the Barberena and Mike Perry fights, Barberena dropped him in round 1, and Barberena was going to win that fight. He was 6 seconds away from winning a decision in that fight. With the knockdown thrown in, 10 seconds away from winning that fight. He just outworked Luque, and at times he was making Barberena look lightning fast on the feet, and Barberena is not quick. Again, it was because of that high guard. Barberena was just unleashing when he'd put that high guard up, throwing combos at him. Luque backs up in straight line. He's quite basic, Luque, in his style, but he is dangerous with his power. And then the Mike Perry fight, again, very competitive on the feet. Perry didn't get as many punches through as Barberena, because Perry tends to throw more wide hooks, and when you use the high guard, you're kind of blocking wide hooks, but the straight punches, which is what Wonder Boy is going to throw and what Barberena were throwing, were getting through, and he was just getting out volume. Now Wonder Boy is definitely going to have the best movement of anyone he's faced. It's just whether he can catch Wonder Boy at some point. So I do lean Wonder Boy here, but I do have reservations, obviously, about is he slowing down and has his chin, because you don't want to be eating shots off Luque. And also he's coming off the KO loss. Is he going to be hesitant, or more hesitant than he was? So these are all things to bear in mind. I do like Wonderboy though, but I mean, if you are backing Wonderboy, it'd be interesting to see what Luque KO is. Or if you don't want to hedge immediately, maybe wait for round 1 if Thompson survives round 1 and wins it, because I think if this goes 15 minutes, unless Luque gets, multiple knockdowns, I think Thompson close to a decision. It's probably worth, after round 1, looking at Luque inside the distance as a hedge. If it does go like I'm saying it might, and Thompson kind of wins round 1 fairly comfortably, as long as he doesn't get caught with anything, then you'll probably get really good odds on a Luque inside the distance hedge. But I do go with Wonderboy, but there are question marks on him. As I said, 37 in February, been dropped in a few of his most recent fights. His style doesn't age well, but I do think Luque's style is pretty basic for someone like Wonderboy. Luque will be on the front foot, so Wonderboy's going to be able to counter, which he likes, but as I said, he's got to be very careful, and he's got to make sure he doesn't circle out to the right, which will lead him into Luque's left hook. He's got to go clockwise when he's moving off. So I'm going to be looking for that in round 1 in how he's moving off, because I don't want him getting clocked with that left hook. So he's got to move clockwise. So it might even be a good live bet fight, guys. Look for that in round 1. Is Thompson circling off in a clockwise motion away from the left hook? Is Luque having problems with the combinations of Wonderboy? But then, I think he outclasses Luque if the fight goes a distance, so the line's probably going to be pretty wide. So yeah, it's a very good fight. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Co-main event is Darren Till taking on Kelvin Gastelum. This is a hard fight for me to have any confidence in, because I don't know what Darren Till's going to look like at middleweight. I think he could look a beast. The weight cut was definitely affecting him. To get down to 170 was absolutely killing him. So I think he could look a completely different fighter here. A lot of fighters have gone up in weight recently, and it's kind of been for the wrong reasons, I think. And it's fighters that are getting towards the end of their career. Darren Till isn't. He's still very young. I think he's going up for the right reasons. I think his chin will improve, moving up to middleweight as well. What I don't like about Darren Till though is his defence. He does have that kind of pullback kind of defence, similar to Israel Adesanya, but he doesn't have Adesanya's movement. He doesn't roll with the punches as well as Adesanya, and he doesn't have Adesanya's speed. So it's going to catch up with him. When it did in his last fight against Masvidal, and it was a bad knockout. He banged his head badly when he hit the canvas. It was one of the worst knockouts of last year. So, but fair play to the guy coming back and taking on Kelvin Gastelum. The UFC like him. I'm sure he could have got some far more winnable fights to begin his middleweight run, but he's gone straight in here against Kelvin Gastelum. So yeah, it's just hard. The power as well. What kind of power is he going to carry at middleweight? He could crack extremely hard. But Kelvin Gastelum, he fights out that set. They're both southpaws here. Kelvin Gastelum has immense power. He's coming off that great fight with Izzy Adesanya, which I had it 2 rounds each going into round 5. He got absolutely wrecked in round 5, but he struggled with Adesanya's timing, with his speed, with his counters, with his accuracy. Darren Till's striking is good, but he's not on Adesanya's level. But having said that, Till probably possesses pound for pound more power, but when you factor in Adesanya's speed and timing and accuracy, a lot of the time that makes up for a lack of perhaps pound for pound power. So Till is definitely going to be the bigger man here. And Kelvin Gastelum's chin has always been granite, but he took that 5th round, he took a bad beating. That fight could have been stopped. So, has he recovered from that fight? Is he still the same guy? I've got to assume he is. He's still young, Kelvin, but he has taken a fair bit of punishment lately. Even the Jacare fight, he took that fight was really competitive. You could even argue Jacare won by outstriking Kelvin. But will Darren Till, however, I think his chin will be better, but it's an assumption. I think he is going to get hit. I didn't like how much he was getting hit by Masvidal. That fight was way more competitive than I remembered it being before the knockout. He was actually getting caught quite a lot in that fight, Darren Till. But having said that, I mean, I remember Darren Till before, like the Cerrone fight, and some of his fights he was really, really hesitant, quite low volume. But he'd have big moments in fights, because I think pretty much up until his last couple of fights, well, even against Wonderboy, he knocked him down. I think he's like knocked down pretty much every opponent he's faced. He even knocked down Masvidal actually, right at the start of round 1. So let's have a quick look at that actually. I think he has knocked down every opponent he's faced in the UFC. He knocked down Masvidal. He didn't knock down Woodley. He did knock down Thompson, knocked out Cerrone, knocked down Bojan, knocked down Ayari, knocked down Dolby. Yeah, he's floored everyone he's fought in the UFC except Tyrone Woodley. But what he has shown is he's not been able to finish these guys except for Cerrone. They've always managed to recover. But he's at middleweight now, he's going to crack even harder. So, look, it's a very hard fight to call, but there's no way I'm betting Kelvin Gastelum here at -200. He's definitely going to be the smaller fighter. And there's just so many unknowns with Till, How's his chin going to hold up? How's his confidence going to be? That was a big knockout loss. But he is sitting at +170, and I think at +170 the value is probably with Darren Till. And as I say, even though I want to pick, I think I do pick Kelvin Gastelum for the sake of this podcast. As I say, we do this podcast based on the betting lines, guys. I'm going to pick Darren Till because he's +170. I think this fight should be closer than that on the lines. I think Gastelum should be the favourite, but I think that line is too wide. And I know he was at +175 yesterday. But I definitely can see Kelvin Gastelum winning this fight. And as I said, it kind of gun to my head, I'll pick Kelvin Gastelum. But on the current odds, I think the value's with Darren Till. But with the Corvette, there's a lot of question marks here with Till. So it's a fight I won't be betting. But if I had to bet the fight, I would take the value on Darren Till. So I'm going to pick him, even though, as I said, odds aside, I'd go with Gastelum. But I'm a better, so values with Till. I'm going to pick Darren Till. Main event of the evening for the bad motherfucker belt. I can't wait to see this belt actually. See how much effort's gone into this. I think if Jorge wins, The Rock's going to put it around his waist. But I don't know if The Rock's confirmed he's definitely going. I think he said if he was there he'd do it, but I don't know if he is. But anyway, we've got Masvidal sitting as a favourite, -175. Comeback on Diaz +155. So I mean, I'm pretty much going off of Diaz's last fight here. I think that's fairly fair. He had a 3-year layoff. He's 34 years of age now. So he got the win over Anthony Pettis. I wasn't impressed, to be blunt. If I had bet Nate Diaz in that fight in the first half of round 2, I would have been kissing my money goodbye. It looked like Pettis was in complete control, and then it looked like Nate was slowing as well. The question is, how much ring rust did Nate have to shake off in this fight? But it definitely looked like he was slowing. But then Pettis just died himself all of a sudden, and he just couldn't deal with Nate Diaz in the clinch. Diaz just beat him up in the clinch basically. It's how he won the fight. At range, Diaz, he looked sloppy, his timing looked off, he looked slow. He definitely looked like a fighter that was either on the slide or one that was very, very rusty. If that Nate Diaz shows up here at range, he's going to get picked apart by Masvidal. So I imagine, this is a 5-round fight, and Diaz is always known for his great cardio, but he did get that second win. I think it helped that Pettis slowed, but he just looked like he was slowing in round 2. Now Masvidal doesn't slow; he's got great cardio himself. So I'm not relying on Diaz slowing here because it's never really been a factor. But he did look tired in round 2 against Bettors. He's going to try and get on the inside here and in the clinch with Masvidal, and I don't think he's going to have a great deal of joy. I think Masvidal should be able to shut it down and get off the fence fairly quickly. Masvidal is going to mix his attack up here. Doing tape on Masvidal, he actually throws more kicks than I remembered. Now the problem with Masvidal has always been, historically, has been his volume. But it's been a bit of a non-issue ever since the Jake Ellenberger fight, basically. He moved up to welterweight. Well, actually, I think the Ross Pearson fight was at welterweight. Actually, he's been at welterweight for ages now, saying that, so I'll take that back. But there was just a clear up kick in his volume from the Jake Ellenberger fight onwards. I mean, he kept losing split decisions. He lost the Al Quinta fight. He threw it away. I don't know what he was doing. Lost a split to Benson Henderson as well. Split to Lorenz Larkin. But Jake Ellenberger, far more aggressive. Donald Cerrone, far more aggressive. Damian Maia, kind of completely different stylistic matchups, more grappling match. Wonderboy, just a puzzle to solve. Wonderboy is not your conventional striker. It's just, if you can't deal with him, you're going to look outclassed, and he did. Darren Till as well, he was throwing more volume in that fight. Rewatching it, I mean, at the time, for whatever reason, I thought Till was kind of comfortable, but he wasn't. He did get dropped early in round 1, but besides that, he was landing some good shots on Till. And obviously the Ben Askren fight, you can't take anything from that. But it clearly looks like, and I know because I heard interviews where he identified the volume as being an issue and something that he was going to sort out, and he's the kind of right side of crazy to be able to fix something like that. Most fighters, it's just ingrained in them, it's their style, but I mean, this guy's a natural fighter. He was, bare knuckle boxing since he was 17, 18. The guy's never been knocked out. I mean, he's got one KO loss, but it was a premature stoppage. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You think of all the fights he's had, over 40 fights, nearly 50 fights, he's never been knocked out. So I just think he's the classier boxer here against Nate Diaz. Nate's going to have to have success. Nate's going to have to try and work in the clinch, and I just don't think it's going to work for him. Pettis was tired, and Pettis is just done for me. I mean, he got that lucky win against Wonderboy, but he's done. He should be retiring, in my opinion. He just folded against Nate. Jorge's not going to fold. His cardio is going to hold up. He's been looking as sharp as ever. He's nearly 35, but he's been looking as sharp as ever with his hands. He's clearly got power. Nate's obviously really tough to put away, but I think Jorge could even mix in takedowns here. I mean, he's known for his decent or pretty solid takedown defence, and I know American Top Team, they talk really highly about his wrestling ability, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him take Nate Diaz down here, because Nate's, he's got very poor takedown defence. I have to go with Masvidal. The lines, I mean, he was at minus 160, which I quite liked. He's up at minus 175 now. It has been bet down because when they thought the fight was off, they reopened, and Masvidal was minus 225, but money has come in on Nate, so Jorge's back at minus 175. I'd like to see it come back down to minus 160ish, to be honest. I'm not sure. I really got no idea what way the line's going to go on this one. I'm really not sure. Obviously, Masvidal's coming off a couple of very impressive wins, and Nate Diaz, he's known for the Conor McGregor fights, but they were a number of years ago now, so he might have faded from the kind of general public's memory. But he's got that win over Pettis, so I'm hoping a bit of money will come in on Diaz, but I'm not sure. Current lines, it's probably still playable on Masvidal, but I'd like to hang around to see if that comes down a little bit. What his fight goes a distance, because I don't really see a finish here. Minus 150, interesting. Definitely don't see Nate Diaz finishing Masvidal. It's probably unlikely Masvidal finishes Diaz, but he's shown a finishing ability lately. Masvidal, Darren Till, Donald Cerrone, Ben Askren fight, but it's 5 rounds though, so it's going to be a sweat. But I like Masvidal here, probably by decision. I think fight goes to a decision is an interesting line at the moment. If it stays around minus 150, might even improve possibly. That would be nice. But yeah, I'm really hoping that a little bit of money comes in on Nate and Jorge's line drops slightly. So I'm going to go with Jorge to win a decision here. Really good card, guys, from bottom to top, solid as hell. As I said, the biggest favourite is -250. That shows you how stacked this card is. It's a very solid card from a betting perspective, especially if you like your dogs or your close lines. But honestly, I don't think there's one fight on here where I can say hand on heart that they're definitely, I'm 100% confident in them. So it should make a great night of fights. Really, really evenly matched card. Really looking forward to it. As I said earlier, if you want to subscribe for the 12 months pre-bets and live betting, it's £195. £100 unit members are £11,900 in profit this year. £150 for live betting only. Bet slips, stakes are all posted. All bets are tracked, guys. Complete transparency this end. Good luck with your bets. Good luck with your picks. Let's hope it's a really, really banging UFC card. And we've also got live betting for the boxing in the UK before this card. So we're going to have 2 events to live bet on this weekend. Hope you all make money. Please hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by end of the year. That'd be really nice for my first year on this channel. And hit the like button if you like what you hear, and I'll be back for, I think it's UFC Moscow next. So good luck, everyone.